Yes, very well.
Right. We'll do the pledge. We're going to do the pledge and then we'll have prayer for everyone. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice for all. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you again for the opportunity, just the freedom to live in the United States of America and to have the opportunity just to gather in free union to have such meetings such as this. And dear Lord, we just pray that your protective hand over our country as we deal with the COVID pandemic, dear Lord, and especially be with all those on the front line, our healthcare professionals and so many others that are giving of themselves and that of their family to care for the many people that are impacted. And dear Lord, we just ask that you be with each one of us this meeting this evening and throughout just our daily lives, that we be that light on the hill, that we be that example that others could look to, dear Lord, and in times of possible negativity, that we can have an opportunity to be positive, Lord, and to be that, again, to be that shining light. We ask you that we would guide our decision making, not only here this evening, dear Lord, on me and our 5 school board members, dear Lord, but just as we go home this evening and we live our day-to-day, dear Lord, that those decisions that we always need to make and have to make in our daily life or our professional life, dear Lord, that we seek your guidance when those decisions are to be made. We ask you to be with our men in uniform, dear Lord, and with their family, and provide for their comfort and safety. Be with us through the remainder of this meeting. Through Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
At this time, we'll call the meeting to order. Roll call.
This action is taken by calling each board member's name with the board member answering present. Mr. Murray. Present. Ms. Wilson. Present. Ms. Higginbotham. Present. Mr. Kazook.
Present.
And Ms. Wicker.
Present.
Item 4, adoption of the agenda.
Okay, I do not have anything to add or take away from the meeting agenda, so there are no corrections or amendments. I recommend that the agenda be approved as presented.
Item 5, consent agenda items.
We vote on that, Mr.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Executive.
Yeah. Yes, I'm sorry.
Mr. Murray. Yes. Ms. Wilson. Yes. Ms. Higginbotham. Yes. Mr. Kazook.
Yes.
And Ms. Wicker.
Yes.
Item 5, consent agenda item. Consent agenda.
We have the previous meeting minutes, payment of bills, construction funds report, school activity fund reports, the financial report, and the treasurer's report for the month of June, which I will read now. Balance on hand at the beginning of the month, $9,053,753.35. Total of all receipts for the month, $2,743,299.92. Total of all receipts and beginning balance, $11,797,053.27. Disbursements for the month, $5,631,956.62. So balance at the close of the month, the cash in bank, $6,165,096.65. Fund balances, general fund, Fund 1, $3,601,716.81. Special projects, Fund 2, $69,070.17. District activity, Fund 21, $1,588.54. Capital outlay, Fund 310, 0. FSPK Building Fund 320, 0. Construction Fund 360, $2,311,811.47. Debt Service Fund 400, 0. Food Service Fund 51, $176,806.96. Fiduciary Fund 7,000, $4,102.70. Total cash in bank of all the funds, $6,165,096.65, and it's reconciled. Good, solid account balances, especially there with that general fund ending the fiscal year with that.
motion.
It's so unknowing for next year.
Unknowing, yes, it's good to have a healthy balance. That's exactly right. Going into next year. Yeah.
We need a second.
Yes.
Need a second.
Mr. Murray? Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Higginbotham?
Yes.
Mr. Kazook?
Yes.
And Ms. Wicker?
Yes.
Item 6, memorandum of understanding, Russell County Sheriff's Office.
There was just and I'll take full responsibility because I should have caught that when we were going over the other one. At last month's meeting, when we approved the MOU with the sheriff's office, this is the one for officers Jackie Grider and Troy Young. As you all know, the board, their situation is a little different of how they're funding of their salaries. And the board provides for their vehicle, not the sheriff. So item 11 on page 4, Sheriff Poston has marked that out, put a not applicable, and has initialed it, and I've initialed that as well. Because this is an agreement that was brought and approved by you all, I wanted to bring that back before you all to approve that again, noting with that change that the sheriff's office does not provide for the vehicle for Mr. Grider or Mr. Young. But they will the other ones with the COPS grant, but not with this one. Okay. So I recommend approval of the updated MOU, noting that the Russell County Board of Education provides the vehicles for officers Jackie Grider and Troy Young.
Need a motion, please?
Okay. Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Higginbotham?
Yes.
Mr. Kazook?
Yes.
And Ms. Wicker?
Yes.
Okay, item 7, professional leave of absence.
This is essentially the same leave of absence that Mr. Wolford was provided for last year, as you all know, proudly representing all of the Kentucky Education Association, serving as vice president. But we're proud that Mr. Wolford is a hometown boy and here from Russell County. But he will again be serving in that capacity for the 2020-2021 school year. And as you all know, before he got that position, he was employed by the Russell County Board of Education at that particular time as a librarian at the Russell Springs Elementary School. So this is again asking for his continued professional leave of absence for this coming up school year.
Second. Second.
Ms. Wilson? Okay. Mr. Murray? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it is, and it's very common in these offices for these officers of KEA throughout the state. They serve in various entities. The previous, I think I can't remember where she went back to, but the president before the current KEA president, then she went back to the classroom after she was done with her term. But it is, to answer your question, Mr. Murray, it is legal to. It's up to the board, of course, to do that. But let me clarify something in my answer. When you're given a leave, you are guaranteed a job. You're not necessarily guaranteed that specific job. Yeah. Okay. 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 Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Higginbotham?
Yes.
Mr. Kazook?
Yes.
And Ms. Wicker?
Yes, and I just add that I took a leave years ago when I was teaching and came back and changed positions, and but it's a good thing to have, the leave.
Item 8 is declare surplus and accept sealed.
Okay, per Russell County Board of Education Policy 04.8, the superintendent should advise the board when certain properties are no longer needed for public school purposes. Upon receiving this report, the board may, at such time as it deems proper and after compliance with applicable state and federal regulations, authorize the disposal of school properties through closed sealed bids, public auction, or sale for at least the fair market value established by certified appraisal. The board reserves the right to reject any and all bids. Our complete policy is attached. So here we have some old vehicles. Some of them are wrecked and some of them are just not safe or just totally out of commission, and that we're not, they're hardly used, and we're paying, might still be paying on insurance. We've been able to get one or two to replace some of these, and we don't, we don't need something around that we are just totally in the surplus, the old truck and the trailers. Yeah. The trailer that's in there, we currently use that to haul our mowers on, but you can see it's a lot more than what we need to haul a mower on, and it's a custom one. We found another trailer that's a lot better, easier on our trucks to pull and to move around, and also easier on our mowers as well. But some of that, some of it's in fair condition, some of it is not. You can see by the pictures, is not in fair condition. But I recommend that the Russell County Board of Education declare the attached list as surplus property, and then authorize the superintendent forward to his designee to advertise for sealed bids with the option to reject any and all bids. So we will take the bids, and they will not be fully executed until I bring them back before the board for you all to review them and to accept or reject the bids.
Motion.
Mr. Murray? Yes. Ms. Wilson? Yes. Ms. Higginbotham? Yes. Mr. Kazook?
Yes.
And Ms. Wicker?
Yes.
Item 9, memorandum of mental health agencies.
So we have 3 at this time. As you all know, we'll have more because we do provide for a lot of different agencies to come into the school district to provide counseling. So this is one for Brookside Counseling, Somerset Mental Health, and Entrust Healthcare. And I give credit to Mrs. Dameron. She's very efficient and diligent at vetting every entity that comes in that wants to provide services for our students. And we always bring these MOUs, so it's very clear what they expect of us, what we expect of them when they're in our school district. So I recommend approval of the memorandums of agreements with the following mental health agencies: Brookside Counseling, Somerset Mental Health, and Entrust Healthcare.
Is there a second, please?
Okay. Ms. Brenda? Okay, Mr. Murray? Yes. Ms. Wilson? Yes. Ms. Higginbotham? Yes. Mr. Kazook?
Yes.
And Ms. Wicker?
Yes.
Item 10, permission for early entrance for kindergarten.
We have 2 students who have met all the criteria for early enrollment in kindergarten, pending Russell County Board of Education approval. 1 student will be enrolled at Salem Elementary School, and 1 student will be enrolled at Russell Springs Elementary School. So they have to meet the early enrollment criteria if they didn't meet that age to start then. And that's already been vetted and approved, pending your all's approval. So I recommend approval that 2 students be granted permission for early enrollment in kindergarten in Russell County School District for the 2020-2021 school year.
I'll make that motion.
Sorry. No, they'll be in kindergarten. Just that they're early birthdays, and so they couldn't meet the traditional start age. They'd have to wait for next year unless they met all the criteria for early entrance. Yeah. Now they'll be actually just full-blown kindergarten students. Ms. Wicker, Ms. Wilson. Okay. Mr. Murray. Yes. Ms. Wilson. Yes. Ms. Higginbotham. Yes. Mr. Kazook.
Yes.
and Ms. Wicker.
Yes.
Item 11, KSB policy update, number 43, final reading, policy 03-211, medical examination.
Okay, as I noted at the last board meeting, this policy update clarifies that bus drivers are reimbursed $25 toward their required yearly physical. This adds what's in italics right here, provided that they have driven for the district within the previous 6 months. And that's only in there, and I totally understand why, and we welcome it in here, but sometimes people, they have a CDL and perhaps a bus CDL, and they don't want to lose that. So they come to our update training, which is fine. There's no issue with that. And maybe they've driven for us in the past, but unless they're current drivers, I don't think that we should have an obligation to pay for their continued physical if they're not providing that service for us. So this clarifies that they have to have driven for us within the previous 6 months for us to pay their $25, what amounts to a deductible for their health insurance. So this will be the final reading and will be effective for 03.211 policy for the Russell County Board of Education. Yes. Okay.
Is there a second?
Okay. All right. Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Higginbotham?
Yes.
Mr. Kazook?
Yes.
And Ms. Wicker?
Yes.
Item 12, technology integration specialist job description position.
Okay, I'm going to read this introduction, then we'll talk about this position. So Russell County Schools currently does not have a technology integration specialist. There's a lot of different titles for that. Some of them call them a technology resource teacher, a TRT. Some of them call a digital coach. They all essentially do the same thing. With increased technology integration and the need to provide a distance learning option for students, there's a great need for this position to assist both employees and students. So the job description is attached. So let's talk a little bit about the demands, for lack of a better term, of what this position would entail. Number one, I could certainly foresee that this is a needed position, and it's one that we could certainly keep using. But we certainly need it for the coming up school year. So as you all know, all parents have been offered in-person classes, or they've been offered a distance learning option for their student, whatever best works for their family. And it's no secret. I don't think it's going to surprise anybody what I'm getting ready to say, just based upon current numbers. The chances of us having in-person classes are probably slipping away. I believe that. I think most people are foolish not to say that likelihood is looking more and more realistic. But this person would be responsible for helping the teachers, one, to have that digital instruction with the students, and then also a lot of resources that can be provided not only for students, but for families and the teachers. We need them for additional days beyond just what a certified teacher is paid. And with the CARES Act funding, this is certainly an allowable expense that we can pay for that with the money that we got from federal government, because this position is being used to support teachers in the midst of this COVID pandemic. So that's certainly a funding stream that we can use for that. And so you think about, we're going to be using a uniform platform across the district of Google Classroom. And this person certainly, although we did not specifically mention a specific platform, because that may change from year to year. I don't think that it will, especially not for a while anyway. But that would be a big responsibility, because teachers are going to have a huge responsibility to, one, dual rows. They may, and we hope that we are, in-person classes, and they may very well have X amount of students that are at home, and they're teaching those students virtually using Google Classroom. Or if we are totally distance learning, then the teacher will be responsible for all of their virtual instruction using that platform. And we need the possibilities with Google Classroom, for one thing, and for that to provide as most of a in-classroom, a traditional teacher feel that you possibly could. Miss Baird can speak to it. It's about as good as it can get. Actually, just kind of give a brief rundown of what Google Classroom, put you on the spot, and why that can be such as close as of a traditional classroom as you can possibly get.
Okay. Google Classroom is it's not a learning management system, but it is similar to a learning management system. And I can create a class within Google Classroom, and I'm a member of 133 Google Classrooms right now, because back in the spring we did training with our teachers, and each one of them already created a demo class, and they were given assignments to give out, and other teachers were their students. So they created lessons, they can upload videos to expand on their teaching, they can use with their Chromebook they're getting, they can position it to where the student can see them through Google Meet, and the kids just click on, they can see their teachers, and they can see whatever the teacher's showing them. They can view videos, the teacher can create Google Forms to where the students will answer the questions within that. All of it is housed within Google Classroom, and it grades it for them. The teacher can see simultaneously who's turning things in, what their grade is, and if they need feedback, or if they need a remediation lesson, if they didn't get it, then they can assign one thing to that student for extra help. So it's pretty amazing.
It's phenomenal. And so we know that as teachers start in on those classrooms, they'll start at this level, but once they start using them, then there's more and more options and more things they'll want to integrate, more things, but they need somebody that can help, that can be a go-to person, train them, because every bit that we can provide for our teachers with this Google Classroom and integrating this technology will only be helping our students if they're home or in the classroom. But we have to provide, in my opinion, we have to provide this support for our teachers, because enough of it is already going to be on their shoulders. They're going to have a hard enough time as it is. They need to a really good, strong go-to person that can help build their skill set and more tools in the toolbox. And at the end of the day, it's going to support our students.
The lessons will that be recorded, like they can go back, go again. Yes. So the teacher can, once they're teaching that lesson, like if I choose to do that live lesson with the class, then they can record it. They can record that lesson as they're teaching it. If there's something that they want to pre-record, they can pre-record and then assign it to each one of the classes. So the options are pretty much wide open as far as, we've still got to get together and work out the specifics of the expectations. But as far as an option that's not in person, we think Google Classroom is the best way to go. And that way you're still getting that feedback, live feedback from the teacher, and the students can, see what they need to work on. They can interact with their classmates. So,
And there's so many other the resources, so you're not just limited to whatever's in there. But for instance, if you have a really good PowerPoint, or maybe there's a YouTube video that you want your class to watch, all of that can just be linked, and it's right there on the lesson. And you can share things. So maybe first grade teacher at Salem has developed something, and they really like that, and the other first grade teachers think, well, that's great. They can share that out, and so they don't have to, develop that themselves. So it's great, and we just need to support our teachers to the maximum we can.
last 2 days, well, Friday and today, I created a kindergarten class, and I'm the teacher, and all the kindergarten are my students. And I've also created a kindergarten shared drive. So everything that I can find to share with them, I'm putting in that shared drive. And then I'm assigning it to the class so that they can see the student side of what the student will see. Because what the teacher sees and what the student sees is a little different. So to give them some practice, I'm going to do that with especially these K1 teachers because they're so hands-on with the kids. And so I'm trying to find kids, they do some interactive things with the small.
What do you do about that?
Do about what?
Labs.
Virtual.
Yeah,
They'll have to find
it'd be virtual.
Watch the experiment
Yeah.
versus having hands-on.
Which it's not as good, but there are virtual dissections to where even where if Mr. Murray was in class, he could take his mouse and hold it down with a scalpel as if he's opening up a frog, and he could take, all those types of things. And so, X amount of years ago, we couldn't envision that. And that's still nothing takes the place of in hands-on real life. We know that nothing's going to take the place of our students being in front of our awesome teachers. But this is about as close as we can possibly get. And I just want to support our teachers to the absolute extent that we can. I know we were all in another meeting, Ms. Rita and Miss Bethany and I were all with in a Google Classroom training with Chris Galby last week, and it was just, as central office administrators, it was just wonderful. That's all you can say for it.
Won't it help the parents also?
Absolutely, because there will be an index of like videos. There's a go-to person, and how do we do this? And it's a resource for everybody. Yep. I had something else I was going to mention about Google Classroom, and then I forgot. Imagine that.
There's actually different apps like a whiteboard, the teacher uses for a whiteboard a lot.
Yeah.
So there's a whiteboard app within Google Classroom that the teacher can write on the whiteboards. And I'm going to get with the principals, especially in elementary, to see if the students at home need a whiteboard. They can hold it up in front of their Chromebook and she can see how they're working on their math problems, or if she asks them to do something. So we've got several whiteboards already in the schools, but if that's something else that we need, to get for take-home packets for the little kids, for their counters and their manipulatives and little whiteboards and markers. So we're going to be getting a list of things for virtual learners.
And speaking on that, we're going to be calling, although we did the survey, we're going to be doing a specific email, and then if parents give us the information that will satisfy what we need, we will not be having to call them. But if we need to call them, that's fine, because we need to hone down definitively of whether or not this particular child is coming to school or going to do virtual, and then really talk to them about their internet connection. And then maybe they don't have internet at home, or maybe, as Ms. Baird referenced, they don't at that particular time. They're at grandma's during the day, but the teacher's lesson has been recorded, and then they're back home in the evening, and they have all that. The teacher's lesson has been recorded. All those opportunities are still there. Or maybe they can even take their Google Chromebook and set in Jamestown School parking lot, because we're hotspots at all of our schools and other community locations. So we want to provide that digital platform. I hope it's for 99.9999% of our students. Will some people still have to have a paper copy? They will. And we will work on those families on an individual basis. But our overall expectation is that everybody that is at home and doing the distance learning will be doing so on the digital platform. Yeah. The guidance for special ed and those related services, and that just came out today. And I'm confident that a lot of the webcast will be devoted to that tomorrow. Yeah.
I think we had that conversation a week or so back.
Yep. Yep.
I get them information.
Yep.
They seem to us.
And part of it, you can download offline and manipulate part of it, and then when you're back to internet, then it kind of resyncs, for lack of a better term. So they wouldn't be able to have the full experience if they did it that way, but they would still have some experience. Yeah. So, well, maybe at the August board meeting, I would kind of like a demonstration for you all on what that Google Classroom looks like. We thought we would do that at the August board meeting. You all could see how we could go through that. But, you know, just think about the teachers on everything that they're having to take on and learn. And that's why I just feel like this would not be another thing to help them, that they'd have a good go-to person. Again, to beating a dead horse, but at the end of the day, it's going to help the students.
That will have the time.
Yes, absolutely. Mr. Kazook noted the time to help them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are we ready for a motion?
Any more discussion? Yes, we're ready for a motion.
I make a motion that we create the new position of technology integration specialist job.
One more note I want to make, that this is not administrative position. It is a certified on the teacher certified salary schedule. They will have 20 extra days for training people in the summer, but it's not administrative position. It's on that. Okay. Mr. Murray, Ms. Wilson, Ms. Higginbotham, Mr. Kazook,
Yes.
and Ms. Wicker.
Yes.
So we will get this up on the posting. Tomorrow there's a little bit of process, and Ms. Rita has to send it to Frankfurt for approval before we put it on the board for local application, and then we can, we'll act on that just as soon as we can.
Public comment.
I like this. As long as everything going on, this road, do you feel like the school is still going to start on March 26th or
Yeah, I was going to speak on that, and I'll go ahead now since you opened it up. I'm not a betting man, but if tomorrow was August the 26th and today is August the 25th, I'd say we were not going to be in school based upon current numbers and things like that. Now, this is me, just Michael Ford talking. I do not foresee a statewide mandate, or not a mandate, it wasn't a mandate, or recommendation like we had in the spring. I feel like the approach might be more regionally through the health department. So if the Lake Cumberland District Health Department or the Lake Cumberland District area is having an increase in cases and they really spiked, this area might be delayed or you know, a specific school district or whatever. If Western Kentucky, they have relatively few cases, they might have the green light. And again, that's just Michael Ford talking. But I think it is an absolute real possibility that we will not be starting school on August the 26th. But we're going to charge ahead with those two options provided for our families and our parents, in-person classes. And we've got a great, and we'll probably finish rolling that out this week and final touches on it to where I feel really, really good about that. And if parents elect that and that works for them, that's fine. If parents elect that the 5-day instruction at home, the virtual, that's fine, because we want to, you know, meet whatever, every family, that's what I've told them, they're going to make the decision that's best for them. And we'll respect that and work with them absolutely to the best that we can. But I think every day right now, the chances of us for in-person classes is probably slipping a little.
it sounds like we're pretty well prepared for this situation?
Yeah, we will be. We will be. And you know, we bought masks for students and staff. We've got sanitizer that's either here or on the way, more than what we even want to talk about. Yeah, there's a sample of it there. We bought all the PPP, and I appreciate Miss Carol and Miss Patty, our district nurse, and Scott Thomas, because they vetted so many companies. My phone is full, and I get it. If I was a salesman, my phone, everybody sells PPE equipment now. At one time you couldn't find it. Trust me, everybody has it for sale now, and theirs is the best. Even one guy was advertising that you could spray their cleaner in your face, but it would still kill everything else, and that's. Well, it's been quite
Really
some.
good stuff.
It's really good. But anyway, it's almost comical. But there's all of that out there. So we have, we're taking care of all of that and all the cleaning stuff. I've told you before that obviously if we're in-person classes, we will need additional staff in the school. You think about restrooms being sanitized and water fountains during the day. And we've got awesome bus drivers. They work 4 hours a day right now, but I've got a list of folks that said that they would be willing to work in between their two shifts. Some folks said that I can help clean a building, extra cleaning after their evening shift. So they could work an extra 4 hours a day. And so I've got that list, and I appreciate our bus drivers stepping up for that. It could be that some of our other classified staff that maybe right now just work 7 hours a day. Some of those folks might ask them to work an additional hour a day of sanitizing classrooms, but we'll need those extra people, boots on the ground, if you will, during the school day to provide that extra sanitation and cleaning. So the bus drivers will have to sanitize their buses when they get off, and then they will have to in between their routes and then after their evening and morning routes. And then if kids will have to have a mask on the bus, but if they don't have one, we're going to have disposable masks for the bus drivers. And so we've thought all those things through. And central office, I'll give them central office administrative staff and our principals and assistant principals and the time that everybody has spent on. You really can't imagine the questions that come up and how this leads to that and this leads to that and that leads to that. Can you, Miss Baird? Because of Miss Rita, a lot of it is chain reaction. So we were hungry for that special ed guidance that just came out today. But like I said, I know the student webcast is going to be, because that's really the big part of the puzzle that's not really been addressed. So we have the population of students that didn't really get hardly any of their services, if you want to think about that, and how we provide those catch-up services, and then how we just provide their services that they need and deserve once school does resume. Not only for that, and also for our English language learners and for our preschool students. So there's a lot of that to be taken up. But to answer your question, go back to what we're talking about, I'm extremely pleased with the amount of time and dedication our principals, assistant principals, and our central office staff have went into putting this. And not only that, teachers are just going to bed, their minds are churning. I know, I have two sisters, and they certainly are, and everyone else is as well. But, at the end of the day, whatever choice we have or presented with, I know that Russell County Schools will make it the best. I know that our cooks will make certain our students are fed. I know our instructional assistants and our teachers will make certain that our students are taught to the maximum that they can. Our bus drivers will either A, get our kids to school, or B, be helping to deliver food like they did last year. And some folks work, they can't do that, but they help with maintenance and other tasks. And our office staff will be answering phone calls, and our nursing, at the end of the day, they make it work. They make it work. And we don't have all the answers right now. And as time progresses, things will change and will evolve. And I read a thing, I'm reading this digital playbook that's for schools resuming. It's really good, but they had a little note, and they said last year from spring, March to May, it wasn't about distance learning. It was really about crisis teaching, because we had to flip on a dime, right? Literally, school was out and we were on distance learning. But this we expect to be much more robust, and I think we all have a vetted interest in providing for our students to the absolute most that we can. I know you all do. We wouldn't have purchased Chromebooks, and providing for that technology integration specialist. But we have to balance all of that with, really, there's no other way to say it, but just a frustration that's natural for our faculty and staff to have, and the questions that it's natural for our faculty and staff to have. And kudos, hats off to them that can have all that frustration and still be positive. And they're not on social media. All of our faculty and staff could be on social media just bashing and bringing up all the negativity. Instead, so many are calling, they're offering support. I had a teacher today, and won't mention his name, but he emailed me and said, this is what I teach, but if Mr. Ford, if you need me to do something different, I'm there. You tell me what you need. Actually, he said for the district. And that's the mindset of most of our faculty and staff. And you know, you're going to see some negativity, and that's fine. But for Russell County's staff, I just appreciate them so very much and appreciate that positive, because it's tough times. And I realize that. We are very blessed. We are absolutely blessed. Yeah. And it's going to be a lot that's going to be expected of them. It is. It just is. There's no other way to sugarcoat it. It just is. But we just have to be there and support one another. Yeah. Yes, sir.
First of all, I'd like to thank Mrs. Wicker for doing what she's done and standing back. Because to be honest, as I've traveled our county and I've been to Lexington a couple times for different reasons, I see a lot of people who really are thinking of other people.
Yeah. I told you this would be a good example. See? Yeah, that's exactly right.
I know you haven't published the final criteria for school protocol.
Sure.
My questions today, from what I've read from national type of thing, you almost need an assistant in every class for the teacher.
Yeah.
I don't know that's doable, but if we start, whatever date that is, we start, are you going to have some kind of step back criteria saying, okay, we're going to run, but if something like X happens, then we're going to step back?
Yes, and that's really directed with us with our local health department. So we have worked, and that I'm glad you asked that question because it gives me an opportunity to brag on our health department. They have been absolutely phenomenal. So they have met with us regarding just for food service with Mr. Emerson and Ms. Robertson and myself and Mr. Jonathan Dye from the health department, working through that plan of how we're going to feed kids. And then Mr. Dye has met with our administrative team and with our principals and fielded questions. And then he and I, there's rarely a day that goes by that we're not emailing or talking or something. So they have been absolutely phenomenal. So that decision would be made hand in hand with the health department and their guidance based upon numbers. But since we're talking about that, but one thing we get a lot about is we want to be really, really, really careful and limit so we can do contact tracing very, very well. So if I was still in Rita Bull's, she was Hammond then, in 4th grade class, just 5 or 6 years ago when she was my teacher, we were in there. Yeah, it was just a few years ago. She was my 4th grade teacher. But she's going to come to me, and our teachers, middle school down, are going to rotate to the students. So we lessen all of the contamination, for lack of a better term. But if we have done that very, very well, and Ms. Rita has taken my class to the cafeteria, and we've maintained 6 feet distance, and we're going to have lanyards to where students are not even entering their number. They're just going to be scanned by the cafeteria worker, and they're not going to get to touch the milk. They're just going to be told what milk to get, and they're not going to get to scoop mashed potatoes on their plate. They're going to be served. But having said all that, that's still a whole lot better than a sandwich being brought to the classroom to eat every day. So there's a lot to give up. So if I say all that, if we do all that really, really well, and we can say, and let's say, Lord forbid, that I'm in her class and I test positive. But if we've done things very, very well, then our intention is to be very surgical, to use Governor Beshear's term, in our approach. So it might just be that Miss Rita's class is gone home to 14-day quarantine. She's teaching us remotely, but everybody else carries on because our risk of exposure is so minimal. Now, and I understand there will be other parents that says, no, I'm still not comfortable. I'm going to go ahead and have my child. And I totally respect that. But if we've done our job right, we can limit those and really mitigate that circumstance so we're not shutting down the whole school or the entire district. And so there's so many protocols that go behind the scene that takes place behind the scenes that makes that work.
I'm not an education expert, but I agree with Google Classroom. From what I've seen, regulated, there's a lot of advantages to it. But have you worked with dual broadband, dual county, trying to see how they're trying to get fiber optic out?
Yeah.
I asked, I had a box on outside of my wall for over 10 months.
Yeah.
They haven't got it in the house.
So they're actually running, the contractors are still running underground cable in parts of the county right now. Yeah. I have had a meeting with Duo County, and we were talking about the availability for families wanting to have no internet access currently, and maybe there's financial obstacles or whatever for that issue. I don't want to speak for Duo County, but I know that they will be offering discounts for new subscribers that are coming on. And they had mentioned some maybe helping with some hotspots in the county, but I can also understand and appreciate if they put up funds to offer a hotspot in X amount in X part of the county, they would want to know that was used by enough students to return on their investment. Yeah, yeah. And actually, they were just offering some free hotspots. Potentially, they were got things to help us out in the community. So yes, we have had those conversations with Duo County, and you know they're working through their part to increase availability, and we're going to have our hotspots in our schools and things like that as open as well. But they will be offering a discount for students, for families that do not currently have internet and want to. But even with that, I know in parts of rural county, I'm blessed where I live, I do have fiber optic and I've got a really good speed. But I know folks that have just DSL still, and you know, if families that have 2 or 3 children on at one time and they're streaming multiple devices and things, it's going to be tough. Yeah, they might have to have some shared time. Yeah, all legitimate questions, and that is absolutely an equity issue for delivery of instruction for students, not only in Russell County, not only in our Commonwealth, but certainly our nation and world. Because that technology, you can call it what you want to, it's an equity issue. Certainly is for us when it comes to instruction. Yep.
Anyone else?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
This is just a small sample.
Yep.
What will be doing.
Yep. Yep. But again, I want to, I'll hush after this, but I cannot brag on our faculty and staff, and in the midst of all of this, those that are saying, you know, just again, the person that emailed me today, the phone calls I've received, the text messages, and those that are just on social media saying, you know, bring it on. We'll conquer it. We'll do the best that we can with it. And Miss Joy said it right. We're blessed. Yeah.
I'd just like to add that I think I speak for all the board that if we can do anything, help the teachers, help the kids, because it does help the kids, or help the parents anyway, we're available.
I appreciate it.
After quarantine, that is.
After quarantine, yeah. Well, you could do something. You could remote in.
Okay.
One thing, as we talk about all of that, that's probably one of the biggest things that's weighing on faculty and staff mind is my family, the exposure. You can't talk about it, but just thinking about it, your own exposure and what you might bring home to elderly parents, or yourself has an underlying health issue, maybe your child does, and all of those are legitimate concerns that I can certainly appreciate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yes, sir.
Speaking of like late-breaking things, last week KMEA said that they won't be sponsoring their regional or state championships in marching band this year. Also within the last week, they issued some guidelines. 6 feet for most instruments, 9 feet for trombones, coverings for brass. They haven't quite figured out the limits yet. This is something that you all will be looking at in August meeting ahead of the school year.
So our after that guidance, our plan for band practice has already multiple pages sent to the health department, approved. With actually, it was so detailed he did not even offer for them to make any other suggestions or changes to that. So it was a shock and a disappointment to think about KMEA and I respect their decision. But Russell County is rich in band history. We have a very strong band program. So it is up to individual districts. For instance, if you were by today, our band was out there, they were practicing, because nothing precludes them now I'll just, if Russell County, Casey County, and Pulaski County wanted to put on a show and have a marching band contest, they still can. They will not be any sanctioned KMA event. So I think as of right now, I know Mr. Irwin's been working with his family and the booster, his band family, and the boosters. I think they're still thinking towards that goal of having some just impromptu with some other districts of following all the guidance. And I need to preface every word that needs to come out. I need to say prior to that is this may change. That may change based upon that guidance. With the governor's recommendation coming out today, limiting 10 people or more, I don't know what that's going to do to our sports that's been practicing, the band practice, all those things. So that may very well change. But that was a significant blow to marching band. Yeah, absolutely.
But he also said he started in 2 weeks that it would be a lot better.
Yeah, flatten the curve. And if we all do this, if we weren't 6 feet apart right now, everybody came in with their mask and wearing that and using the hand sanitizer, and we need to think about it as a personal responsibility, and what I'm doing for what I'm doing may help you, and what you're doing will help me. So that's the big takeaway with that. I don't know if that answered your question or not.
No, I don't.
Okay, all right. You go on to
Any
personnel?
more comments? Item 14, personnel reports.
Okay. And we will, when feel real comfortable with where we're at, Mr. Kazoo, we will certainly begin a rollout of information out to the public and everything with that. On personnel reports, Jared Platt hired Russell County Middle School custodian, and Alicia Swan, she's resigning Salem Elementary School preschool assistant. She and her family are moving.
Item 15, Brendan.
All in favor?
Aye,
Well, Ms. Wicker, I think this worked out pretty well.
it did.
We streamed it back on YouTube, so.
Couldn't see everybody, but at least I could hear them.
Well, glad you were here.
Everybody can see you. I told Miss Wicker that she would be up on the screen and could look down upon us. She said she always wanted to do that. Yeah. I think it's the light coming through the window in your background that's kind of bringing in that light. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, we'll sign off, Miss Wicker.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.